Good morning, everybody. I'm Angela Tsukiji with the North State BIA. I'm proud to welcome you today on this beautiful Friday morning. Very proud to have all of you as a member. What I would first like to be able to do is introduce our sponsor. We're going to have a busy hour for the next hour with a lot of content, and I expect a lot of questions from y'all. So I would like to go ahead and get this session started. We have a sponsor today, and he does have a short little message he would like to say to you. His name is Ishmael Ramos. Ishmael is with Chase Home Lending. He serves on our Sales and Marketing Council Board of Directors as well. So let me go ahead and give you the room for a moment.
All right, well, thank you. Good morning, everybody. Excited to be here in our now, is this our third year doing Selling Lincoln? Second.
This is our third time covering Lincoln.
Lincoln, yeah, okay.
This is our first time where it's Lincoln on its own. Before it was always embedded with selling South Placer.
Okay, well, still very exciting. Yeah. Always happy to bring in, folks that are in Lincoln, know about Lincoln, give us a lot of good information about Lincoln. It's a great town. It's one of my territories that I cover. I will, if it's your first time on one of these education, forums here or platforms, you're gonna love it. There's others that we do, but today it's exciting to have Lincoln, and make sure you pay attention, don't multitask, just because it's good information that we always get about upcoming projects, questions, with things that you might see just driving around Lincoln. And I'm sure Mr. Joyner here will be able to give us some good information. So I'll leave it at that, and let the man of the hour here come to light.
Oh no, they told me 20 minutes max. I don't have enough material for an hour here.
All right. Well, we might be able to keep it going for an hour.
Ishmael was very humble because that was his moment to do a pitch, right? A sales pitch, and he did not do that. And so, which is very gracious of you, Ishmael, but all of you should know that Ishmael is with Chase Home Lending, and if you have an opportunity to do business with him, you know for a fact that he is a very gracious man and would probably take very good care of you.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Angela, for the sales pitch. I appreciate it.
Thank you for being our sponsor today, Ishmael. And then the other person that I would like to introduce you to is also a very humble man. I've known Jeff for quite a while. He and I were in the Leadership Roseville class together in, I think, 2014, something like that.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and now we get to work together side by side, literally. Well, when we're in the office, his office is next to mine. I can knock on the wall. But what I would just wanted to be able to hand it over to Jeff for a little bit. He is the legislative advocate here at the North State BIA. And so he covers a very large area, but his primary focus is Placer and El Dorado County and Folsom. So with that, I'd like to introduce to you Jeff Short. He's our legislative advocate, and he will introduce our guest for today.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming. I'm going to introduce Councilmember Paul Joyner. Paul was appointed to the Planning Commission in 2006 and elected to council in 2008. Very quickly became one of the key leaders, not only in Lincoln, but in all of the Placer County region. I like to call, Paul was re-elected in 2012 and 16, by the way, and has twice served as mayor. I like to call Paul a Renaissance man, as he has an undergraduate degree in business administration from National University, took his graduate studies in fine arts from the Academy of Art University in San Francisco, and has really been able to use all these talents and experiences for the benefit of the city of Lincoln. Paul is business owner, operating Joyner Graphics, a graphic design company for many years. His wife Lisa is a counselor and author, and of course, probably his greatest achievement, Paul was named the BIA's Friend of Housing Award winner in 2019. So, ladies and gentlemen, Councilmember Paul Joyner.
Thank you so much, Jeff. I appreciate that. It's you truncated my longevity on the council. I've actually served as mayor 3 times now, and got reelected in 2020. So
you should have your staff update the city website.
you know what? I should. You're right. It's, as you were reading that, I was thinking, I don't know that I've read that bio in a long time. So I very much appreciate that. That was not me trying to say I've been here for a long time, but I've been here for a long time. And so, folks, thank you all so much for joining us this morning. Ishmael, thank you for sponsoring today. This is, I did not realize this was the first time that Lincoln has stood on their own to do this. And I was a little unclear as to what it was that you were all going to want to hear about, who was selling who on what. So what I thought I'd do, I've had staff put together a bit of a slide deck that I think covers at a very high level what's going on in Lincoln. And then I would hope that you've got plenty of questions and we've got a good exchange of information here, because I can learn so much from all of you. You're the ones who are really out there doing all the work on a daily basis. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. Jeff, you're going to control the slide deck, yes? There we go. So if you could move on to slide number 2. So this is an interesting slide. This is building permits issued month over month since January of 2020. I include this. I like seeing the numbers individually, but I include this primarily because prior to last year, Lincoln had not exceeded 300 building permits in a year for the previous decade. So that we are approaching those 300 permits on a monthly basis at this point will give you a really good sense of the residential development that is underway really all across Lincoln. Next slide, Jeff, please. So I'm going to hit these on a very high level. Commercial projects, Sterling Parkway. I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with this project. It tucks in behind the Rayleigh Center. There's an additional 8,000 square feet of medical building being proposed there. It's in design review at this point. I don't see any issues with that coming forward. Terracotta Village Phase 2. Terracotta Village is out on 12 bridges, and it was initially 2 commercial buildings that got caught in the midst of the recession and sat vacant and unfinished for over a decade. That project has been purchased and has been completed, and now they've pulled permits for Terracotta Village Phase 2, which adds an additional 9,900 square feet of commercial space to that, including 1 drive-through use. Windham Hotel. I've had staff call it the Windham Hotel. It is a Del Sol product by La Quinta, and La Quinta has had a bit of a bad, puts a bit of a bad taste in some people's mouths. I don't know why. It's actually a great project. This is a business class hotel that is under construction just off of 12 Bridges Drive here in Lincoln. As you can see, it's a 4-story hotel, 104 rooms. Should be a wonderful project. It's only the 2nd hotel that Lincoln will have. And as a bit of a byproduct for that, I think most of you probably know that Lincoln is a little stressed on being able to provide the level of staffing that we would like to have for public safety, police, and fire. And the TOT from this single hotel will help us pay for 2 additional police or firefighters. So we welcome the Windham Hotel and any others that want to come along and help us resolve some of those staffing issues. Ferrari Pavilion is a lot that was originally owned by Eschaton Village. It sits on Lincoln Boulevard, the crossroads of Ferrari Ranch Road, just across from Safeway. It is a proposed 12-acre site that is anchored, was anchored by Goodwill, a daycare center, 7-Eleven gas station, a number of pads for restaurants, that type of thing. They are asking for a time extension. I think COVID probably has created some uncertainty there moving forward. So I fully expect the Planning Commission to grant that time extension. And any of you that have any connections to Trader Joe's, that will put that project over the top. So it would be wonderful to see something like that anchoring that center. I think they're still looking at potential tenant mix. Next slide, please, Jeff. Old Town Pizza. I've included this really as, and there'll be a photograph of it coming up. I've included this really as an example of what's going on in our historic downtown. Old Town Pizza was in an existing restored building, the Jansen building. Their lease was about to be up, and they managed to negotiate a deal for another historic building that had been closed probably nearly 15 years at that point. It was the old Lincoln Inn, and the Lincoln Inn was built in the 1800s, originally 3 stories, and just exactly what you would imagine it to be, a saloon with a hotel over the top of it. And over the years, the building caught fire, went down to 2 stories, caught fire again, went down to 1 story, and spent most of its life as that 1-story building. Reese Browning came in, envisioned what could be of that building. We managed to find some old photographs of the multi-story building, which entitled them to more square footage than staff originally thought, because staff was envisioning it as just being that 1-story building that had existed for so long. So Old Town Pizza added rooftop dining, and is the first downtown restaurant to include that. I hope we'll see a lot more of that. Getting outdoor dining going in our historic downtown is difficult, and rooftop dining is a great way to do that. It's a beautiful, beautiful restaurant now with Slice Brewery, brand new Slice Brewery, directly adjacent to that. Next slide, Jeff, please. So this is, the top one is the medical building that I talked about going into Sterling Parkway. Terracotta Village Phase 2. That's one of the structures that will be part of that. Next slide, please, Jeff. This is the La Quinta del Sol hotel that I talked about on 12 Bridges. It's a prototype hotel for Windham. I think it's a great project, frankly. Again, that La Quinta brand, for some reason, brings a legacy with it that I don't think is accurate in this case. I think this is going to be a wonderful project. And then we've got the Ferrari Pavilion down below. Next slide. This is Old Town Pizza. That's the rendering is here at the top. And the actual building down below looks just exactly like the rendering. You can just barely see off here to the left, the open bays are Slice Brewery. Next slide. Residential projects. I'm not going to go into great detail on each one of these, but I will go through each of them with you. Hidden Hills by Silverado Homes, 233 dwelling units, 9 different plans. They're currently in design review. I would expect to see them before the Planning Commission in the next couple of months. Seasons at Independence, Richmond America Homes. They're scheduled for the Planning Commission February 17th. And as you can see, they've got 6 new plans and 3 elevations each. 12 Bridges Village 1, KB Homes, approved by the Planning Commission March 20th, 2019. 240 dwelling units, 6 plans, 3 elevations. Next slide, Jeff. Thank you. 12 Bridges Village 2A, 2B, and 2C. That can be a little confusing because Lincoln's general plan divides us up into 7 individual villages, and then 12 Bridges has divided itself up into additional villages. But they've been approved by the Planning Commission on November 28, 2019 for 379 dwelling units. 12 Bridges Village 10 is Taylor Morrison, approved by the Planning Commission September 18th, 2019, 308 dwelling units, 9 plans, 3 elevations each. 12 Bridges Village 11 Woodside Homes, approved by the Planning Commission April 18th, 2018, 194 dwelling units, 4 plans, 3 elevations. Next slide, please, Jeff. The Education Foundation it's an interesting project, beautiful piece of property, approved by the Planning Commission on March 20th, 2019, 71 dwelling units. And finally, 12 Bridges Village 25 Beezer Homes, approved by the Planning Commission October 21st, 2020, 49 dwelling units. I tell you all of that to be able to tell you this. When we add all of that up, that makes 1,474 dwelling units approved and in various stages of development as we speak. There's actually more than that. There's quite a bit underway in Village 1 right now along 193 as well. But you can see from all of that, that Lincoln, which sat fairly quietly as far as residential development for over a decade, has had a resurgence of that development, not to the wild days of pre-recession, but I think to a slow, steady, planned growth that I think is sustainable. So really excited about all of that. Hope you can come out and see what's going on. I personally weekly take a huge loop through town because so much can change within a single week. So much is being constructed at the moment, and I expect even more to break ground come spring. Jeff, next slide, please. You can just run through these fairly quickly. These are a few of the elevations of the projects I've been talking about. This is 12 Bridges Village 2, KB Homes, Woodside Homes, Taylor Morrison, Beezer, Covenian up top, which is an interesting kind of modern take. Education facilities, I thought you'd be interested in this. The new 12 Bridges High School is well underway out on 12 Bridges. They're expecting to open up in the fall of 2021. Scott Lehman Elementary School, right here in Lincoln Crossing, where I live, technically opened this past fall. With COVID, it's been a little difficult, but they have their doors open now as I drove by yesterday and are holding classes in the classrooms. The John Adams Academy, we wrestled with that one. We had 3 different locations over the course of many years, but they finally got that project up, constructed, and open. It's K through 12. I believe about 600 students enrolled there with a long, long waiting list. Jeff, next slide, please. These are just some photographs these are renderings of the 12 Bridges High School. The photographs, frankly, didn't do it justice in its current stage, but it's visible from the freeway. You should come on out, take a look at that. It tucks in right behind the Lincoln Library. And as you can see, there's a map of the campus there. Next slide. This is the Scott Lehman Elementary School that I mentioned, just opened here in Lincoln Crossing. Now the school district has passed 2 bond measures in the last few years. They have the first round revamped the old high school and many of the existing schools. The second round paid for the construction of Scott Lehman Elementary, which you see here, and the high school as well. And I think they're going to be trying for a third bond that will help them get an aquatic center and a few other improvements to that high school site. Next slide, please, Jeff. And this, believe it or not, is a rendering of the John Adams Academy, and it looks just exactly like that, with the exception of one thing. I convinced them to take the quill pen feather that is their logo and put it at the top as a weather vane on top of that cupola. So if you get out there and take a look at it, that's the story behind that feathered weather vane. It's when I've traveled back to DC, whether it is Monticello or Mount Vernon or John Adams' home, they all have weather vanes atop them. And I just thought it would be a perfect fit for this project. This is a highly successful project. I think a flagship for John Adams Academy as well. And we're so grateful to have them here. Next slide, Jeff. This is going to be tricky. This is we have a program called Love Lincoln. We've done a series of videos, 7 at this point, I believe. And this is one of those videos that hopefully we're going to be able to show you. It'll give you a sense of some of what's going on commercially in Lincoln. There we go.
I love being a Great Lake Plaza. Our old store was small, little 1,400 square feet, not much seating. Here we went all in. This is right around 2,000 square feet, not including the patio. We wanted to be one of those beach huts that really stood up. They actually use our store as a training store.
So I recently moved into the Lincoln Gateway Shopping Center, and it's been so good for us for so many reasons. There's a lot of women-owned businesses in here, the primary one probably being Bayabel, the women's boutique. And we're surrounded by a makeup store, a nail salon, a hair salon, right? We have so many great businesses in here that it really just draws in the foot traffic we're looking for.
We see a lot of everyday stuff with the local people right in the center. A lot of times people come in and just have a sandwich and a soda. Now we're seeing more families that are ordering big.
It's just a fun place. There's the gym, there's the dentist, there's so many things in this center. We like being here because of all of that.
Lincoln Crossing is the location. It's a great location. I mean, we have Raw, we have Home Depot, we have the South here. It's right off the freeway. Pretty much whatever you would need, it's all there. It's pretty close here. We were fortunate that we found this location, and it's beautiful. You know, it's the people, the community. I just love it, and it's so peaceful.
I go shopping all around here. I support my local. I go TJ Maxx, Target, Brown, Ross, all my employees work here. They go around here. So we support wherever we can. I have a lot of walk-in customers. If we're busy, they just go Starbucks, they go everywhere, you know, and they just come back when the time we get for them. It's the best way. Lincoln Crossing is the best.
We have the beer, cider, and wine. That's like just absolute, a lot of IPAs, beef ciders, beef sours. It's very nice to be able to be behind the bar.
This is our brand, yeah, Simply Nutrition. And actually, because of our store, we have so many more friends, right, and relationships, because that's what has actually built Simply Nutrition. It's more than just an immediate thing, but it's conversations, it's getting the right products to have an experience. The anchors at the time that we moved in were Sino's and Orchid Thai. And those are great restaurants. We frequent them often. It's great for us to be like, you know, that shopping center with the clock tower in the middle.
12 Bridges is incredible. Literally everything you could want is right here in this shopping center. So we felt really fortunate that we're right here, just in a perfect location. This became available, and we actually thought that's actually the best shopping center, considering the new high school, the other high school, the elementary school, John Adams Academy that went in, Sun City Retirement Community. It's all right here, and all of them have shown up for us. And so now people of Lincoln are loving our bagels.
Great, thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that. I apologize for the quality of that playing back, but all those videos are available on the city's website. I strongly encourage you to go take a look at each and every one of them. They feature different elements of Lincoln and what's going on in Lincoln. So that is my presentation. I'm more than happy to sit with you and answer questions, and probably will have a few questions for each of you as well.
That's great. Thank you so very much. We really appreciate that, your presentation, Paul. And also thank you for being a friend of housing, not only in the year 2019, but always. Appreciate that. I do have a couple questions that have come through. And this one, I have two actually from one of your residents,
Okay.
Tori Barker. And Tori Barker with Creative Marketing, would you like to go ahead and ask your questions?
Hi there, thank you for having me on. I had a couple questions. I live here in Lincoln and love it so much. And so just wanted to ask, how does the city foresee the influx of the new homes affecting the traffic in town?
Well, there'll be impacts without a doubt. Every new project does a full traffic study. What you're going to see as these projects come up, especially along 193, 193 will be widened to 4 lanes. Ferrari Ranch, that 2-lane stretch of it that connects to 193, has a trigger point in that development as well, where they will widen that to 4 lanes all the way out to the Highway 65 bypass. So all of that was planned for in the city's 50-year general plan. There are trigger points in the development of those projects that will cause them to then go in and do those widenings.
Okay. And I had one other question too. Is the city planning to maintain the green space and the parks with the new developments coming in?
The green space and the parks within those developments?
Surrounding to maintain the space and the small town feel that we have here in Lincoln.
Well, the small town feel is absolutely our target to do. There are a few little challenges with some of that, and this may go into too much depth. If I do, I apologize. So a lot of the park maintenance and the landscape maintenance is paid for through our lighting and landscape districts. And the primary one was established long ago and far away in the 70s or 80s, and did not have an escalator for that fee that was collected annually from the residents. And so we've reached a point where they're still paying the same, whatever it was, $20, $30 annually that they were back in the 70s. And that fund is becoming greatly diminished. So with all the new development, we've gone ahead and created a vehicle to be able to maintain all of those parks and open spaces. That's not a problem. But in some of the older areas that are part of that District 1 Lighting and Landscaping District, we may well have to go out and ask the residents if they'd be willing to self-assess an increase that would help us to be able to maintain those older parks and the landscaping within those areas of District 1.
Great. And then I do have one final question I just thought of. I know here, being a local resident, restaurants, there's not a lot of restaurants to choose from. We have to go down to Roseville and kind of outside of the area. I know with the influx and the adding new homes, are we planning to add some additional restaurants with those commercial spaces, or is that a focus to kind of keep people in the city so that we can thrive and help the city grow?
We're going to get you in on the 8th video that we'll do. That's exactly what the Love Lincoln program is about, is retaining people for their shopping, their dining, their entertainment, all within our city, so that we can gather that sales tax revenue that'll help us pay for services and amenities. The first thing I would say is there are a lot more restaurants in town than most people know. And some great restaurants. Have you tried out Fork yet?
No, I have not.
You know about it?
I don't.
Fork is a wonderful restaurant over on 12 Bridges. It's owned by Paul Jensen, the same man that has Citizen Vine. Have you been there?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same man. He wanted to create a white tablecloth experience that was affordable to the masses. And so he's open, everything is in fours. He's open 4 days a week, 4-course meals, white tablecloth, $44. And it is a fixed menu, just a wonderful experience. But yes, we absolutely want to see more restaurants coming into town, but that's only partially within our control. We can approve the projects that will build the space, but then it's up to the individual business owners to select Lincoln and to invest in Lincoln. And then it's up to each one of us to support those businesses when they do come to town. Unfortunately, largely due to COVID, we lost Double Barrel Smokehouse in the historic Bierman's building. And I think a few of the other downtown restaurants are really struggling right now. So anything and everything we can do to help them out, we're certainly trying to do.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you bet.
Okay, Paul, I do have another question for you, and it is from Amber Norwood, who works for Lewis Planned Communities. And she is wondering, with all the new developments and influx of people, what are the employment centers or any new employment centers coming in?
That's a good point. That is one of the locations we've got a bit of a hole in our existing facilities. It's the airport and the business center surrounding that has a great deal of that. It has Gulfstream is located there. Rogers Family Coffee is located there. A number of manufacturers are out there. We're not supposed to talk about it, but Cal ISO has their redundancy center quietly tucked away out there. And more is coming in and around the airport, in the airport business park. We really want to focus on expanding that. There's actually 2 million square feet of available land for additional warehouses out there that I hope we'll see come to fruition very soon. The Highway 65 bypass, as I think all of you know, created for the first time the ability to drive all the way from Los Angeles to Lincoln, California, without stopping at a single stoplight, without leaving the freeway. And we've now got Nelson Lane, which is a 1-mile stretch directly into the airport, allowing commercial traffic, really for the first time in our history, a direct access to that airport and that business park without going through residential areas. I think I've covered a lot of the retail centers that are here in Lincoln. We are also very much hoping to see the healthcare industry expand here in Lincoln. Kaiser has space for an additional building just off of 12 Bridges. They're bursting at the seams. We're having conversations with Dignity Health, with Sutter, and possibly Adventist as well. So fingers crossed, I think you'll see some expansion within the healthcare field very soon.
That would be amazing. Healthcare is so prevalent in our communities. Another question from Tamara Brown is along the same lines, as she's inquiring if there's any tech companies that might be looking at Lincoln.
I've heard of a few that I can't speak of at the moment that are taking a look again at that area around the airport business park. We're out for recruitment for an economic development manager. Sean Tillman, who previously held that position, has moved on and moved to Canada with his family, as a matter of fact. So we wish him well, but we're working with Greater Sacramento to see what we can attract to Lincoln, specifically in the area of tech. And there have been some conversations, I think I can say this, with suppliers to Tesla and their battery factory up in Reno. So there have been some conversations in that area, and that's probably about as far as I can take that.
Sounds good. And then Tamara does have another question, and I'd like to go ahead and call on Tamara Brown with Keller Williams. Tamara, you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Yes, I want to make sure. Are there any plans for a Costco with all the housing, the new development, which will probably bring more families, which will probably like to shop in bulk? Right now, people are coming to Roseville. So any plans for a Costco or Sam's?
That's again one of those tender areas where I'm not supposed to say too much, but the answer is we have. I'll say it this way: there is a perfect location for them at Highway 65 and 12 Bridges, and an equally perfect location for them at Nelson Lane and Highway 65. And we have had conversations, and I am very, very hopeful. And any chance I get, when Auburn turned them away, I was all over social media letting Auburn and Costco know Lincoln would be more than happy to welcome them here. And I've done the same thing with the Loomis project, which is facing some challenges there. We're not trying to steal it away from any of them, but if we can move up the list and get one built here as they work through their processes, we'd love to see that happen. We absolutely welcome them.
Oh, that's good to know. And then Tori Barker, she has another question for you.
On the subject of Nelson Lane and Highway 65, since you mentioned that, do you guys have any plans for that open land space that has been undeveloped? I know there's another housing development that is in the process closer to Nicholas, but what about that open space closer to the freeway?
Which I guess I'll say this.
Yeah, right off of Nelson and Highway 65, if you go towards the airport.
So just tucked in behind, yeah. So that is part of an area called Sudbey. Yes, absolutely, and that is one of those potential sites for a Costco, for a big box store. So let me address the rest of it this way. Are you familiar with our general plan, our 50-year general plan?
Somewhat.
Okay, so it lays out all future growth of the city in individual villages for the next 50 years. And we began the process of trying to create the infrastructure that would allow us to compete with Roseville and Rockland. And the first phase of that was to build the Highway 65 bypass so that we could move those 40,000 transient vehicle trips that didn't stop in Lincoln off of Lincoln Boulevard and out onto Highway 65 into an area where we actually do have the land to be able to build. We're never going to have a Galleria, but to build big box stores, to build car dealerships if those have an interest, all there. So that area all around Nelson and Highway 65 is referred to as Village 5. That's largely owned by Richland, and they are in the process now of working their way through a rework on their EIR so that they can go ahead and submit for annexation through LAFCO. And so, yes, all of that is planned for out there, along with a 12-field soccer complex that has been long in the works, but we're very excited to work with Placer Valley Tourism and others to see that come to fruition as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
You bet.
Any other questions for Councilmember Joyner? I think that might be a wrap. So.
Oh, come on, guys. I was expecting a lot more than that.
You wanted to get stumped, right? That wasn't possible.
Grill me on this. So the one thing I didn't mention is Lincoln is consistently, even though I said we are struggling to provide the level of public safety staffing that we really want to provide to our residents. I want to flesh that out and say that Lincoln is consistently one of the safest cities in all of California. we just want to see that level of staffing come up even higher. So don't mistake that staffing level for safety. That is not an issue year over year. We are on that very high up that list of safest communities in California.
Which is great information for when y'all are selling new homes. When you're selling new homes in Lincoln, you're also selling Lincoln. So great notes for us to take away, Paul. Really, really appreciate it.
Oh, more than happy to do it. And if anybody wants a tour of my town, give me a call, come on up. Give me about 2 hours and I'll drive you through the big loop. We'll have lunch at Old Town Pizza on the rooftop. How's that?
That sounds great, right? Well, thank you very much, Paul. I'm sure you'll be making some new friends out of today. So probably
Good.
some new Facebook friends since you mentioned that.
Good. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. We appreciate you. And thank you, Ishmael with Chase Home Lending for being our sponsor today. And lastly, thank you for being a BIA member. We really appreciate all of you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Paul. Thank you, Jeff. Great meeting you, Ben.
Bye, Angela. Bye, Paul. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Really appreciate it.
You bet. How'd we do?
It was
I
great.
thought you did great.
Good.
There was some really good information in there. And like I said, there were opportunities for people to really, like little tidbits for people to really take away.
Yeah.
I think it was really good.
Good. Glad to hear it. Didn't talk about the 4 golf courses.
Those are selling points too, right?
They are. Absolutely. All right, guys. Have a great day.
All right. Thank you.
You bet. Bye-bye.